Welcome everybody to the game analysis of yesterday's game against Michael. And I'm just going to quickly go over the main points of this game and also give kind of a summary of the game as I saw it and what I would consider like the main mistakes, and maybe it's also useful just to see how to do a kind of analysis if you are not familiar with it. Alright, so I was playing the black pieces. My opponent, Michael, played knight f3. And yeah, what I know about this is obviously not enough, but what I do know is that there are two ways black can react to this. So either black can go in a symmetrical way, or black can just make a normal setup and just ask white, why are you playing this way? So at least that is how I understand it. And I usually go for the second way. And yeah, not to come across in the wrong way. This is of course a perfectly reasonable move. The Reti is a legitimate opening, and yeah. And Michael knows how to play it quite well. So c4 and e6. So I was going for the Queen's Gambit decline structure. Although Michael pointed out in the analysis that, yeah, it is of limited usefulness to say this is like a Queen's Gambit decline structure because you cannot consider black structure entirely separate from white structure. So Michael played b3 here. And yeah, so I concluded that this is probably to put the bishop on b2, and this is also true. B3 is something that can be discussed, so it has good points to it and bad points as well. Some advantages, some disadvantages. And I'm not going to pretend to know those, but apparently one can argue whether b3 is a lost tempo or not, but it is a legitimate move. I was playing c5 at this point, or rather I played c5 at this point. The alternative here is to play d4, which is a Benoni. And I knew that this was the alternative, but I didn't know how to play it. So usually, as I mentioned, I go for this kind of setup and then just develop as in a Queen's Gambit decline, but hopefully not as cramped as sometimes can happen in the Queen's Gambit decline. So I'm always kind of happy if people play the Reti against it, because I don't need to worry. However, I did some preparation before this game, and I saw that Michael had one game where he got into trouble after black played d4, but not at once. So I somehow came up with this plan to play d4 anyway, but not play Benoni, because I don't play d4 right away. But this is kind of a faulty logic, because if you play d4 one move later, it is still a Benoni. So he played e3. Now I was worried about d4. I thought, oh no, he has too strong a center. But I feel this is a bit, yeah, this is unnecessary worry. I can just develop, I think. So I don't know, let's see what the computer says if I just make normal developing moves. So it says plus 0.4, and this is if white trades here. So if white, and still this, now it even says that it's positive for black. But let's say white does what I was scared of. So I think this is not even possible. Can I win something here? What about this? And now can I not just win something? No, I'm miscalculating. This simply doesn't work. This loses a piece in the game. But I don't have to play this, of course. But this is minus 0.2. So my reason for playing d4 were twofold. One was I wanted to stay with the plan that I came up with before the game. And the second was I was scared that the center would be too strong. But really, if you look at it, my center is very similar to white's center. There's only this b3 pawn which is strengthening it. And it's true that this is very solid. But yeah, what I have here is also solid, and there's no reason that is not a good enough reason not to play it, I would argue. So yeah, that was one mistake for sure, because I actually knew that he was quite good at this structure, and I shouldn't have gone for this just on the basis of a single game that I saw that he lost, and I didn't really analyze it in depth. So actually, I didn't even know if he lost it because of this move and what happened afterwards. So in the game, the opponent played d4 here as well, played e5 at some point, and played a5 to clamp down on the queenside expansion of white. And this is what I was hoping for. It kind of worked, but not really. So here I already had used quite a bit of time, and I actually had to calculate before I played d4 if this doesn't lose d4 right away, whereas Michael was completely familiar with this position. And so I already spent a lot of time here. You can see that even in move 4, I am at 8:44, while he has actually gained time, so he has 10:23. And this is really, really not a good sign for my opening preparation, because I was expecting these moves. So I was expecting this, I knew this was coming. b3 is not like such an exotic move. So one takeaway from this game for me is that I need to be less superficial in my opening preparation. And perhaps I should also look more deeply into specific openings and the plans connected to these openings. I usually shy away from doing this because, one, it doesn't feel like fun to me, and two, the thing is, I just don't believe that the mistakes that I make can be exploited by the opposition that I usually face. So I think, okay, I should spend my energy in just understanding positions better in general, and just going with the flow in a given position, even if it's after move 4 or move 5 and it's some kind of gambit or whatever. I should be able to handle it. But actually this game showed this is not the case if I am facing an opponent like Michael, who understands these positions and also knows what to do. Because it's true, there are many people who understand these positions, but they throw away pawns later on or do stuff like that. So their understanding doesn't really matter. And in these cases, I feel like my approach is justified, because if I spend more time learning tactics and seeing more, then I can always compensate for being down like a third of a pawn or half a pawn because my opponent plays the correct moves, whereas I'm just playing moves that follow the opening principles. They are important, of course, and they are more important than the concrete moves. But yeah, it's important to understand specific plans in the opening you are playing and to understand move orders. So what is the point behind a certain move order or behind a certain line? And that's a lot of work, and I feel like Michael has put in this work, at least to the degree that he needed to in this game. So here I wanted to play d4, because, oh, it's the last chance, he will play d4 himself, oh no. In actual fact, he wanted me to play d4. So now d3, and I thought, yeah, okay, this is fine, I can just develop. And here, I don't know if it's justified or not. The computer is giving me an advantage of 0.1. And it is suggesting I play bishop b4. check. And yeah, I was looking at this briefly, and I was just thinking, yeah, okay, so then you just interpose something here, the bishop, for example. And I thought, yeah, now what have I achieved? Actually, maybe this knight is a bit misplaced now. Misplaced in the starting square. That's also nice. So perhaps that is a reason not to play bishop d2. Instead, Stockfish here is suggesting this move. And if I had imagined this move, I might have just played it. And now I can just continue developing, and it's fine. It's just a normal position. What I wanted, actually, right? So I could have played this without any worry. Instead, I was just looking at whether this check on b4 is doing anything for me in a tactical sense. So I was just looking at whether this, I don't know, wins something, or whether there are some tactics. I wasn't actually really considering the move just from a normal point of view. I mean, just because it's a check, it doesn't mean that the move isn't just a normal opening move, just a normal developing move, and that it cannot be judged according to the usual principles by which you judge moves. So instead I played e5, and I was quite happy here because I said, okay, nice, my bishops can move, I have something in the center here, and now I can continue developing. Maybe I can even play f5, and I was quite happy with this position. But so was Michael, and the reason Michael was happy with this was that I played e5 after I had already played e6. So I spent 2 moves to go to e5. And I didn't even notice it during the game, that this was a loss of tempo, that this was a loss of time. I didn't notice it. I just thought, yeah, now e5 looks fine. And yeah, I mean, you can have such positions, or such situations rather, where you just find the best move, and it turns out that this is implies an earlier loss of tempo, but it can still be the best move, possibly because you made a mistake earlier. But in the moment itself, it doesn't matter, because you just have to find the best move. But in terms of opening play, this is for sure something I should consider. So I should at least have noticed that this is a loss of time, and I didn't. So yeah, once again, trying to think about these kind of moves before they come to the board in some depth is probably just beneficial. Because you don't always have the time. So, for example, this is like a 10-minute, 30-second game. This is not a blitz game or anything, but you have, on average, 45 seconds per move. And this is not like a game where you have like a normal league game where you have like 3 minutes per move. So you cannot really go into some depth with the opening. You can play some principal chess, you can play decent moves, but you will always come you will always come second to somebody who has spent time and done the work of analyzing positions before they arrive at the board, or on the board rather. So yeah, I think this is one thing that happened here. Actually, I ended up in a variation that was basically okay. On the other hand, I was down 2 tempi apparently to normal Benoni. So that is at least what Michael commented. And yeah, so actually from this point of view, this opening just went badly for me. On the other hand, if you just look at the following moves, this to me looks just fine. So just the look of it, it's okay. I mean, my king is still in the middle of the board, But I thought, okay, maybe I can just develop and bring my king to safety, and this is a nice center. And actually, this is plus 1.7 already. So white should have played queen e1 apparently here. And this, yeah, this pawn might be in trouble. Because I think now the threat is probably to take and then play f4 somehow. Let's see what happens if I go here. Does he take? Yeah, he does. Because this piece is pinned. And what's more, yeah, you can even just take here and go here, but no, this is not as good. But it's still plus 1.4, plus 1.9 even. So this is already, because you cannot move this, because you just lose another pawn, I suppose. There are better moves, but I think this is sufficient to show that this is a nightmare for black. So actually this demonstrates the danger of, or the dangers of moving your pawns far up the board, but being slow with it, while your king is still in the center. This is fundamentally strategically unsound. I got away with it, and this is kind of a justification of my kind of opening play, I feel, or my approach to openings. Because basically this is the first time in my life that I've played a Benoni. And I'm playing against a Benoni expert. So from my point of view, he's definitely an expert in this. So he knows what he's doing. And yeah, he's a better player than me anyways. This doesn't have to stay that way, although it likely will. And even though that's the case, all of this is the case, what I've just mentioned, I still got out a decent opening position. So now here I played bishop g5, and this is actually minus 0.3. So after 11 moves, I am fine. In an opening that I've never played before, against a stronger player that knows this opening. So this is kind of a justification. So to me, this game kind of demonstrates both that I'm right with my approach and why I'm wrong against strong opposition. Alright, so here actually, how did this come about? Yeah, I played knight f6. I was quite happy with this. I thought now I can play bishop d6, and I can castle, and I'm happy. And yeah, I was worried he might play b4, but in the game I was worried about this, and I thought, yeah, this would have given him an advantage because we have this and this, and now the queen comes here, and this is all very good for him. But what I missed is that if he plays, wait, not this, if he plays b4, I simply have e5. This is just good. This is just good. So, at least it should be. So, in the analysis, it turned out, it looked as though it was good. Yeah, now Stockfish says it's okay for white. How does this work? I mean, it's a pin, but I suppose you can move the queen away. So maybe it's okay, but I still didn't consider e4 here after b4. Although I am not very worried about this like oversight, because I'm more worried about that I only saw b4 after I played knight f6. Because if he had played b4, I am sure I would have considered e4. So this was basically inconsequential that I didn't see it at this point. But I should have seen this coming. And yeah, because I think it's one of the main strategical plans. So maybe instead of knight f6, I don't know if I can play a5 here or if this is too slow. Yeah, it's probably too slow, but let's give Stockfish some time and let's see what it says. And yeah, it says plus 1.5. So I think all considered knight f6 was the better move, although it's just the third choice of the engine. Okay, and now I played a5, which strategically makes perfect sense, because I want to prevent this move. That is why I played it, to prevent this queenside expansion and indirectly prepare this move. Come on, this move, yeah. But apparently for concrete reasons it's not very good. And yeah, as Michael commented the game on his Twitch, or on the Chess Lifestyle Twitch rather, he also thought that a5 was a reasonable move. He played rook e1, and now I played bishop d6, and this was apparently really bad. Yeah, what should I have played? Bishop e7. Alright, yeah, it's true, you cannot take here. My king is a bit more secure immediately. You can't take here because of this pin. And you can't take here because it's just bad. So, yeah, I didn't even think of bishop e7. Because this is really protected. That's interesting. Bishop e7 is a much more natural move. If you trade here, I can recapture that way, and then this feels better somehow. If I ever play this move, then a bishop here looks like an asset. So, yeah. Okay, anyways, I played this. He did not play this. He should have played c5 right away, apparently. And I played h6, a move I was happy about, but which isn't that good. I mean, okay, why isn't it good? So it's weakening my light squares further. So this is probably bad already. I was going for the bishop here. But, okay, what should I have played instead? And now h6. Alright, maybe it's just the point that I need to bring out my king immediately. Alright, and now it's already plus 1.4. So this is somehow important, looks like. So, okay, trade. I was happy. And now c5. This was a good move. This was a really good move. And now I couldn't take here. And maybe that is the difference. I mean, maybe I should have taken here. Actually, it's okay, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. I didn't take here because I couldn't calculate it properly. But and I decided for slow games. If I'm not sure a move is safe, I'm not going to play it, even if it may well be better. So if this was a longer time control game, I would have spent more time for sure. But here I already was below 5 minutes in terms of clock time, which means actually that I've spent half my time, even though there is an increment that doesn't change that assessment. So maybe if I hadn't played h6, maybe it's just a wrong priority, because in the short castle line I'm also playing h6. So maybe h6 is fine in general, but short castle straight away is fine. And actually this is equal. So this is a very important point, and I should not just skip it. Because now if there's c5 and this one, I don't feel like I need to be nearly as worried about what white is going to do here. Whereas in the game, h6 is like, yeah, I don't know if there's some useful saying, but it's like, you have like it's the wrong order. It's the wrong priority. My main priority should be to finally bring this king out of the center. King safety should be important here. Instead, I was looking at this and saying, okay, this looks quite safe for now. There's also this annoying pin. So white cannot make use of this immediately. So I don't have to castle right now. I don't have to castle right now, so I can play something differently. But this is not a good way of approaching these things. You should play, in the opening in general, you should play the moves you have to play before the moves where there's a choice. And this is another reason why I should have castled short. And this is really interesting because, to me, even now when I look at it, it feels like some kind of detail, but it's really the difference between 1.4 and 0.2. So it's the difference between a draw and a loss. This decision right here. Alright, I played h6, and I was happy with this, and the idea is fine, but this is not the time to execute this idea. Or this was not the time to do it. Alright, and now c5, this was a strong move. I didn't see it coming. Once again, I basically knew that this was an idea. I also played a5 to block this, right? But I was surprised by these pawns time and again. So probably I should keep tabs on the opponent's possibilities, and not just when they pop up as threats on my radar. Just in general, just to see, okay, I have these ideas, my opponent has those ideas. Can he execute them? How could he execute them? And then I think I would have seen c5 just pop up like on my strategical radar as a candidate move for white. Alright, I didn't do that, and only now did I see that this evacuates this very nice square for the knight. And here I started to feel that things had gone astray, or maybe after the next move. So I already explained my rationale for not taking on c5. Instead I withdrew to c7. And now rook b1 apparently is too slow, which is interesting. Actually, why does the immediate b4 work? Can I not just take it? Takes, and yeah, I shouldn't take it right away. The main reason being that this is horrible. And I think I also cannot take it. Yeah, I saw this in the previous analysis, right? So now it's unpinned. So this is something I will talk about in a minute. So this I cannot do because of rook a8, and this is just painful. This is just painful for black, and this is going to drop, and this is going to drop, and it's just horrible. And accordingly, there's +4 given by Stockfish as the evaluation here. Yeah, I want to say something here about this knight on f3. I think it's really instructive to see how Michael dealt with this pin. So he always made sure that I couldn't play this. So he did not go for an early b4 adventure, which would have been kind of similar to my h6 move. Because b4 is a necessary move, but it has to be executed at the right time. And he was worried about e4. I mean, we saw in the concrete variation that e4 is actually not possible, or not winning, at least for black. But yeah, the mindset is a good one. And he brought this knight to here. I mean, obviously you have to bring the knight somewhere, and maybe you don't want to have it here. So maybe that's a good reason to put it here. But this already, now this knight is overprotected to no end, and he can just move his queen. And still he's in no hurry to do so. So he moves the queen when there are good squares for the queen. Which I wouldn't call like a general principle. In the opening, you want to connect your rooks as quickly as possible. So I think often it's probably you just cannot avoid moving your queen just to a decent square, not the optimal square. Or maybe that's just how I play openings. I don't know. Alright. So now he didn't play b4 right away. He prepared it, which is also reasonable. And now I short castled, which is a good move. A necessary move that I should have played earlier. And now comes b4. And now these pawns are becoming quite strong, and they are hindering my coordination. And here I realized that something had gone astray for me, which is funny given that the position is once again at 0, 0, 0. Now the only the only plan I came up with was this one, but this is too slow. And yeah, actually what the engine suggests here is a very active move. And yeah, it's in keeping with the idea of initiative. So why does this work? Let's try to figure it out. Let's switch off the engine and check later. I want to understand this. So to me, this looks just bad. So take, go here. And yeah. What was the point again? Ah, this is the point. No, this is not the point because this is a check. Okay. So now this loses for black. Alright, this is not the point, apparently. But this pin is still strong. So maybe I can move to here, let's say. And you can go here. And maybe I can now go here. And this pin is becoming really, really, really annoying. So maybe white is in trouble here. So let's check with the engine. So the engine says this is 0, 0, 0. Alright. We can take here. And now can the knight take? Okay, no, it can't. Okay, and next I take the queen. So this doesn't work, but h3, this core move apparently works. And now we move away, and probably white still doesn't take, or yeah, they do. Okay, but is this even forced? So let's see, we have... I wanted to see what was the beginning of this train of thought actually. e4, I wanted to see why white cannot just take it. So why cannot white take here? And my thought was that is about capturing with the f pawn. Oh no, it's f4. Interesting. It's f4. Right, this is strong. This is really nice. And the pin becomes dangerous once again. But you have time to move away your queen, don't you? It's even with check. So how do you proceed from here? Bishop e6. And yeah, okay, the queen moves here. F takes g3, f takes g3. Wait, but I'm down a pawn, am I not? Yeah, I'm down a pawn. But we say we are happy with this. Why? A takes b4. So, dear Stockfish, please give me some evaluation. I'm helpless without you. e5. e5. A takes b4 is apparently good for me because of bishop 8. This is an endless line. I don't know what to make of it. So this is like one of the pitfalls of working with an engine. You can go down a certain rabbit hole and the engine is not going to tell you anything about meaning. You have to supply the meaning when analyzing with an engine. And right now I'm kind of lost in the jungle of variations. I don't know where I am. I don't understand what this means. And it's not helpful. So how can I still learn something from this? I have no idea. So e takes d4. No, e4. I thought we could win this. So the conclusion was, the point is that white may well win this. We somehow do not care. Because we can play this. But one question. Why can we not play it directly? Because of this bishop, probably. Yeah, this is not nearly as strong.
And this is also like not a nice square. Okay. Yeah, e4, that is nice. I don't think I would have seen this move ever. I wouldn't have considered it. Maybe not even a long time control game, but I mean, I would have considered it, but I would have rejected it on tactical grounds. Alright. What happened instead? A takes b4, a takes b4, and now rook a e8. I was very happy with this move because I wanted to play e4 after all. So I wanted to prepare it. I said, okay, the downside is this gives up this file, but there are no entry squares. This is, of course, a very, very short-sighted thought. Because this pawn can move here, and then this knight has to go. So, yeah, but what could I have played instead? Don't tell me e4. Don't tell me e4. Actually, why not? Let's say e4. How do you evaluate this? If e4 was fine before, maybe it's fine now still. Because this rook is already doing something. This is not without importance. Yeah, and this is 0, 0, 0. So, okay, what can I learn from this? Maybe that I need to trust my strategical ideas more, in the sense that I try to look whether I can execute them at this moment in time, even if it doesn't look that way. So so to think a bit harder on positions where something desirable doesn't look possible, and to think how to make it possible, instead of just starting to think when something doesn't work, or rather when there's a concrete threat. So not just preventing the bad things, but working harder to make the good things happen. So that is, I think, one lesson I can take from this here. So again, e4, e4, and that's another thing. If you just work with the engine here, the engine tells you rook a3. I was looking at this and I thought, yeah, okay, there's the knight, it's coming to c4, that's no good. Actually, rook a3 was my idea when I traded on b4. But I thought about knight c4 and discarded it. And Michael also said so during the game. And he saw rook c3, which I didn't even see. And he thought he doesn't believe in it. But apparently rook c3 is -2. So maybe the reason is, I could imagine at least, that this is now much stronger, because you can never take here because this knight simply drops. And yeah, maybe that is the main reason. So what is if I try to prevent this? What happens then? Yeah, e4 anyways. Right, because e4 is also attacking this. So yeah, true. So if you take here, I bet I'm going to take on f3. I'm not going to take the rook. Yeah, I am going to take the rook, but even if I do this, it's -3 already. So rook a3 would have been a good try, apparently. This is interesting. And once more, it's a case of, I have an idea that I like, it doesn't seem to work, and then I just stop. And just say, oh, it doesn't work. No, 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 I need to work harder to make my ideas happen. So that is another valuable lesson. And that's another thing. If I had played against a lesser opponent than Michael, I probably would have been successful in some other way. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but even in the not so optimal way that I played, I might have slipped through the cracks of the errors of my thoughts, or of my ways, so to speak. So I would have gotten away with things. Yeah, that's the expression. I would have gotten away with things. And Michael didn't let me get away with that. And if I if this would have been a successful game against a lesser skilled opponent, I might have said, yeah, maybe I should play this setup more often. So e6, then you have like c5, d4, and then e5, and it's all great. I mean, hopefully I would have seen in the analysis that it's not true anyways. But that is another reason to play against stronger opponents. They punish your mistakes, and you have to improve in the areas that are closer to the edge of your abilities. So that pushes you to improve. So you're not just content with doing the same things in a good way over and over again, because they just don't work against good players. So now, let's move back to the game. Wow, we're already analyzing for 40 minutes. I wonder if anybody will ever watch this, but okay. Let's go. I played this move to prepare e4, and we saw that I could have played e4 anyways. So the queen comes now to b3, and gives a check, and I played another losing move. And this time it really was a losing move. So I should have moved the king. And now queen f7, which I played, which seemed very logical to me at the time, apparently just loses the game. And this is confusing to me. This is again confusing to me. It's like h6 should have lost the game. Queen f7 somehow perhaps did lose the game. But this is confusing. To me this looks like a normal move. But okay, I should have played this. And maybe, yeah, I think I understand. I never got to execute e4 under good circumstances in the game. And I think having the queen here and the rook, it exerts pressure along this file. We saw this in the variation. And Michael also, after I played queen f7, it's interesting, he at first didn't want to trade. Because he said, yeah, let's keep queens on. And then he said, no, this is worrisome. Let's trade queens. And this was a correct decision by him. So I captured with the king. Actually, for tactical reasons, I have to capture. I have to do this because he can chase my knight away. And then, for example, he could take here. And yeah, because of this pin. So I cannot recapture because of this. So for this reason alone, I had to recapture with the king. Actually, I didn't even see this. I later regretted not having taken with the rook, but I made the correct move for, yeah, secondary reasons, for strategical reasons. I wanted to place my king here because I wanted to go with this idea. I really like this idea because I was kind of jealous of the square c4. And I said, you know, I want a square of my own. And the problem right now is, whenever I move my knight here, this pawn drops. This pawn drops. So I said, yeah, okay, I will be doing this in an elegant way. And now it's protected, and now I can move it here. So, yeah, so many arrows. So, knight c4, and I said, oh, okay, that's great. I'm safe here. And actually it turns out I'm not that safe there. But, yeah, okay, let's move on. And now the pawns come. And basically he just wins from here on. I moved to a5, which is a horrible move. Yeah, knight d8 is a better square. I could have traded as well, Stockfish is telling me. So yeah, I can either trade and move then here. I don't know if this is a good idea. I mean, it's freeing the bishop. Alternatively, I can move here right away. And this is just a much better square than a5. The problem with knight a5 was played in the game. So there's a tactical answer that we both just missed, I think. We can just take here, because this bishop is overloaded. So I think we we both of us missed this. That's one reason. And the other reason that I saw in the game already is you can just move back. And don't tell me this is good for black and I can play e4 then. I'm not your friend anymore, Starfish. Yeah, I'm not your friend anymore. So b6 is obviously good. Or apparently it's good. I didn't see this. I mean, it's still +1. And the problem I had with b6 and c6, I looked at this. My problem was that where does this knight go? I mean, it is blocking this. It is blocking this file. So maybe it's okay to keep it there. But it just looks so ugly. It looks so ugly. In particular, if this is the piece that I wanted to bring here. So maybe I should have just accepted this because I saw this and thought it was bad. But apparently it's okay. So the problem that I thought knight a5 had is not a problem. And the problem I did have, I didn't see. Alright, great. Let's move on. So b6. Yeah, that's the other problem. And yeah, one remark to on analyzing with engines. When engines tell you it's a mistake, something is a mistake, and you say, "Oh no, it's a mistake. I played a horrible move." b6 is a great move. So the knight f takes e5 would have been +5, and b6 is roughly +3. So yeah. +3 is completely winning. So from a practical point of view, b6 could even be better than knight f takes e5. I don't think this is the case here. I think knight f takes e5 is better, and I'm sure Michael would have played it had he seen it. But b6 is still a good move. So if you go from winning by a large amount to winning by a big amount, and the engine calls this a mistake, you don't have to listen. You don't have to listen. I mean, there can be situations where you have a broad range of winning possibilities and you play a move, and now you have to find like only moves. This is very relevant, and this could express itself in such a change in the evaluation. But yeah, more often than not, if it's winning by a large amount, it's still winning by a large amount for a human as well. So yeah, I took here. Obviously, I didn't just want to lose my knight for nothing. And yeah, I was trying to spice things up a bit and play with the initiative. And I did this. It's just tactically not sound, and Michael didn't blunder. But he was low on time. And once again, against a lesser player, this might have worked, what I was doing here. But it's just objectively lost. But e4, it's a nice try, I felt. But still, you can just take here. You simply have to avoid some pitfalls. So here, for example, wait, what was it here? No, this was, let me see, because there was a nice variation. There was a really, really nice variation. Well, there was this backrank mate. Let's see where this was. So here, yeah, there's a nice variation here. I'm not sure if it's the exact variation, but it doesn't matter. It's a nice theme. So, actually, let's say he wants to capture here. It's just the same topic. It's not the exact line, but it doesn't matter. And now he just says, okay, I don't care. You're up. I will get myself a queen. Then I would have mated him. This is not the line where this is the most plausible. I think there was a slightly different line, but I think it's still a nice mate. There are also some other nice ideas here. So if for example, yeah, if for example white is just greedy and he plays this and now says, okay, I'm going to protect this. I could play this. I'm not sure. It's probably still losing, but there are these nice tactical things that are possible. So this is probably still just completely lost. But yeah, maybe it's it's probably lost. The problem is, where can you go? Where can you go here? Because if you go here, White could play this. Yeah, but then you can play here. So this, yeah, this is one example what could happen. If I played against a weaker opponent, low on time. So even at this point, where I am clearly lost objectively, there are still ways white could have gone wrong. And I think from a practical point of view, moves such as e4 are a very good try. Unfortunately, here it didn't work, and it wasn't likely to work, but I think it was still my best shot at this stage of the game. So now, yeah, the rest. Here I was a bit worried about the rook coming here, because the problem is always once my knight goes here, there's this check here, and my king doesn't have a lot of squares, and that's why I played rook e6, but it really doesn't matter. So now, yeah. This move, I was thinking, yeah, just take on b7 and it's over, which is true. But white is winning by so much. Bishop d5, which is not a bad move at all. It's forcing exchanges. And, while white is not up by much material, exchanges from a practical point of view are still good. And here I'm protecting there, and white just says, okay, if I cannot... White doesn't really care that much about this pawn. See, white cares about this pawn moving in. And so white says, okay, I cannot protect c8 from b7. Yeah, let's just protect it from e6. And the game is just over. So here I was again desperately trying things, but I didn't believe in them. But I made these moves anyways, because, yeah, it doesn't cost me anything just to make the moves. And stranger things have happened, but only very rarely. And after rook d1, I had just seen enough. There's nothing I can do. I could move my knight to here, and then, I mean, if I'm allowed to make the circle here, please. And then white just captures here. So this is just completely and utterly over, and that's why I resigned. So it was a nice game, and yeah, I hope this analysis was interesting to some of you. And yeah, see you soon. Bye.